as the massive blunder in Surah 9, verse 30, where it says that Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah.
I talk about that later in the video.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's another one of those. It's another one of those things where, hey, why is Allah, who has all eternity to plan out exactly what he's going to say to refute all these positions, why does he say a thing where no one has any clue what he's talking about? And his apologists are forced to come in and say, well, maybe there was this tiny little sect that said that we have no record of them existing or something like that. It's like, well, why is he responding to them and not mainstream Christianity? Anyway, that's good.
Okay, so this is going to be one of the many videos refuting this video. So David Wood's talking about the Quran chapter 9 verse 30. Now, I've already responded to this like many times on my channel. The Quran chapter 3 verse 30 is talking about a specific Arab group of Jews living in Medina who are saying that Ezra is the son of God. The Quran is not talking about all Jews, it's talking about that specific group of Jews. If you read Tafsir al-Qurtubi, the Arabic linguistics of the Quran chapter 9 verse 30, identifier can be used to say like Jews, but not mean all Jews, but a specific group of Jews, right? So if you read, like, since David Wood doesn't know Arabic linguistics, he's making this generalization. When the Quran says Jews, it means all Jews. For example, when the Quran says people, like all you people, like it doesn't necessarily mean like all mankind. It just means the people around the Prophet Muhammad. Just like, the New Testament says like the Jews said that, Jesus is blaspheming, etc. Like if you read the New Testament, the Gospels of Matthew, Luke, and Mark, etc., the Jews said Jesus is this and that, or Jesus is possessed by the devil or whatever in the Gospel of Mark. When the Gospel of Mark says that, it's talking about the specific Jews who are saying that Jesus is, possessed by Satan or whatever. Same logic with the Quran. When the Quran says Jews, it doesn't mean all Jews. It means a specific group of Jews, as the Arabic linguistics allow. So the Quran chapter 9 verse 30 can be explained that there were some Arab Jews in Medina, because keep in mind the Jews in Medina were Arab converts to Judaism, and they weren't full Semitic Jews. The Arab Jews of Medina were saying that Ezra is the son of God. Not all Jews, some Jews. You see, David Wood doesn't understand this because he didn't read the commentary. If you read Tafsir al-Tabari, Tafsir Ibn Abbas, etc., these early Muslim scholars are saying that there was a group of Jews saying that in Medina. And if you read Ibn Hazm's book, he says that that sect died out. There's no more of these Jews who say Ezra is the son of God. If you read Tafsir al-Tabari, Ibn Hazm's book, etc., that Arab Jew, that Arab Jewish sect died, that was saying that Ezra is the son of God, died out. So that's the correct historical context of the Quran chapter 9 verse 30. The Quran chapter 9 verse 30 is not saying all Jews around the world say Ezra is the son of God, because that's incorrect. The Jews do not say Ezra is the son of God. So I agree that Jews do not say Ezra is the son of God. It's not found in the Old Testament, etc. But if we just let the Quran speak, if we pay attention to the historical context behind why the Quran chapter 9 verse 30 was revealed, we see that the historical context is addressing a specific group of Jews in Medina who are saying Ezra is the son of God, and not all Jews around the world. That's something David Wood doesn't seem to understand that. So I just want to draw attention to that fact, or make it clear that David Wood just does not know what he's talking about, because he's taking the verse out of its historical context. If we pay attention to the historical context, why that verse was revealed to begin with, if we read Ibn Hisham's book, he says that there was a group of Jews who were saying Ezra was the son of God, and that's why the Quran chapter 9 verse 30 was revealed. because to address those Jews. If you read the Prophet Muhammad's biography, it gives a historical context behind that verse. So, that's why the Quran, chapter 9, verse 30, was revealed. It's not talking about all Jews. It's just talking about a specific group of Jews in Medina who was saying Ezra is the son of God. Now, some other Muslims have said that, well, this is talking about the Metatron, some kind of like divine angel that Jews used to worship in Yemen. Or some Muslims have also said it's talking about for Ezra is there were some Jews before Islam that were saying that Ezra is the son of God. For Ezra says this. Maybe, I mean, I personally don't favor those views. I can kind of understand for Ezra saying Ezra is the son of God, and some Jews before the rise of Islam was believing that Ezra is the son of God, and the Quran is talking about them, those Jews before the Prophet Muhammad was even born. Maybe, maybe the Quran's addressing them. I don't know. Maybe the Quran works, both ways, forward and back, but or present day in the past is addressing those Jews in the past and the present. I don't know, but the view that I've always favored, the view that makes sense to me, is that the Quran just talking about a specific group of Jews in Medina who are saying Ezra is the son of God, and it's not talking about all Jews. That makes sense because if you read the commentaries, if you read Tafsir Ibn Kathir, you read Tafsir al-Tabari, Ibn Abbas, Tafsir al-Qurtubi, etc., it's talking about like a specific group of Jews who are saying that and not all Jews. So I don't know. That's the view I favor, and I think that's the view that makes the most historical sense because the Old Testament does not say Ezra is the son of God. So there is that issue that Jews in the Old Testament does not say Ezra is the son of God. So if we're fair with the Quran and just understand the historical context why that Quranic verse was revealed to begin with, it was addressing a specific group of Jews in Medina and not all Jews. Stay tuned, more videos coming back.